possible flash flooding and isolated winds up to 60 miles per hour. Good morning, I'm meteorologist Pew. I'm actually filming this the night before, but this is a forecast for July 13th, 2025. We have a slight risk or a 2 out of 5 in the northeast, and we have a marginal risk in a lot of other places. We have an isolated 2% tornado risk in the Ohio Valley and Mississippi Valley. We have a 15% chance to see winds up to 60 miles per hour, mostly in the northeast, and then 5% in all the marginal risk areas. And then we also have a 5% chance to see small hail in the upper Midwest and New Mexico. But the main concern today is flash flooding because these areas have already been seeing rain for the past couple days. So if these storms today hit an area where the soil is already saturated, it's going to make it harder for the water to be absorbed into the ground, thus making the flash flooding more possible. Some places could see rainfall totals up to 1 to 2 inches from Sunday to Monday, and isolated places 2 inches or more. Places like Central Texas, North Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and the Ozarks are going to see rain pretty much all day. Further north in places like the Mississippi Valley and southern Illinois, it looks like around 17Z or 12 p.m. Central Time. For eastern New Mexico, it looks like things are going to start around 19Z or 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And then everywhere else, such as the southeast, mid-Atlantic, northeast, around 18 to 19Z or 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Looking at 500 millibars or midway through the troposphere, we have two things going on for us. We have a huge broad trough in Canada right now that's going to be the barrier between the warm, moist air and the colder air. And that's going to be transporting the cold front that we're going to see in the northeast. The other thing that I want to point out is we kind of have a little baby trough around Oklahoma, and this trough is going to be responsible for a low that coincides in that area, and with that is going to be a stationary front which is going to cause the constant convection and produce a lot of storms. Something that's absent that I want to point out is a lack of wind shear, which is the mechanism to tilt the updrafts that prolong storms. And since we don't really have any, a lot of these storms are going to be very isolated and probably won't last that long at all. But looking at the trough later in the afternoon, it does deepen a little bit, and that's going to increase the wind shear, which is going to prolong the storms that do develop. Looking at the base of the trough, there is a little part that kind of detaches, and that's going to create a little localized low in the central Texas. If we take a look at the surface, we can kind of see a very similar thing happening. Looking at these wind barbs, you can see them going counterclockwise. And so when wind converges into low levels, it can't go through the ground, so it's got to go up, which is going to encourage upward motion. And so because we see that from the surface to the 500 millibars, we know that there's going to be convection in this area. And then looking at 300 millibars way up in the troposphere, we can see there's not really any uniform direction of where these winds are going. And so that's what makes this convection or this area of low pressure more stationary. Now going back down to the surface, we can see that there's a high pressure in the Gulf, and that's going to be pulling in warm, moist air constantly to Texas and the Central Plains. If we take a look at precipitable water, or how much water is in a fixed vertical column, which is basically a measurement of how much moisture is in the atmosphere, we can see that we have high values in a lot of places. Areas of purple, their values are about 1.75 inches, and then areas in pink are about 2 inches or greater, which is a lot of moisture. So even though there's a lot of moisture, places like the southeast, because there's not a lot of forcing or lift, that's why storms over there are disorganized, isolated, and they don't last that long. And that's why we have